Yes, sir. You are the co-host right now. Have you joined through Mac or something, sir? Or cell phone or
Yeah,
tab?
I've joined through Mac. Yeah.
I think you have to give a permission, then there is some setting. But the green icon should be visible, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not there. Maybe.
So you can WhatsApp me your slide or mail me. Maybe I can run the slide through if that's okay with you.
Sure. Let me just. Give me one. It's a Google Drive, Google presentation. I'll just share it with you.
Okay, sir.
Prabhakar, can you just send me your email ID?
Sure, sir. I'm texting you.
Yeah, Prabhakar, I've just shared it with you. Just let me know once you get access to it and you're able to open it.
Yes, sir.
Prabhakar, you can just open it in Google only and just do the slideshow because there's a video in that. So if you download as a PDF, that video won't work.
Okay. So, sir, let me start with your introduction itself, and then probably we can switch to the PPT. So, very good evening, everyone. I'm Prabhakar, your host for this session, and Jagan is the co-host. We are gathered here on this virtual platform to welcome Mr. Mayank Singh for another episode of Guest Talk Series 2022. A very good evening, sir. On behalf of current XPGDM batch, I welcome you. We are glad to have you with us today. Mr. Mayank is the current director, merchant product at OYO, and has 9+ years of experience in fast-paced growth startups and consulting, launching and scaling markets, business development, and product management. He has worked with one of the big four consulting firms before joining OYO. Apart from Mr. Mayank's distinguished work ex, he is also an alumni of Army Institute of Technology, Pune, and ISB Hyderabad. Having represented his alma maters in various sporting events, he is an excellent basketball player, a very humble human being, and a super amazing senior. And I can personally vouch for that because he happens to be my flank senior, as I am also from Army Institute of Technology, Pune. He is here today to deliver his insights on how did OYO expand from India to 20+ countries in 3 years' time and became the fastest growing hotel chain in the world. Mayank sir, thanking you again for your time. The virtual podium is all yours now. I'm just sharing the screen.
Cool. Thank you, Prabhakar, for that lovely introduction. And also, thanks a lot to Sarvesh and also the XLRI committee for giving me an opportunity to just present my learnings to the group here.
Sure, sir. Just
So I think meanwhile, before Prabhakar is sharing the screen, I'll try to sort of wrap up the entire. I've created a bunch of slides based on my experience, and we'll try to wrap up the entire presentation within maybe max 40 to 45 minutes. And then if there are any questions, we could take that.
sure, sir.
Prabhakar, you'll have to open up it in Google Sheet only because I don't think the video will work. Yeah, in this only just these are the slideshow. Click on the slideshow.
Okay.
Top right.
Top right. Yeah.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Super. Yeah. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Just a second. Yes, I guess everybody is able to see the screen.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can just
start.
put it on slideshow. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on to the next slide, Prabhakar. Cool. So just to start with a very brief journey at OYO. I have been here at OYO for roughly 4 years. Have changed 3 roles in the last 4 years here. Started with the international expansion role. Did that for roughly, I would say, 2 years, and started with Southeast Asia for 1 year, and started 4 countries there. And then I moved on to US and Mexico. Spent almost a year there, launching the US and Mexico operations. And post that, I came back to India just before the pandemic and moved to a product role. And I have been looking at some of the merchant or the partner side products for our hotel owners. So broadly, in the entire journey of 4 years here, have changed 3 roles and have traveled to more than 80 countries and 50 plus states across those 8 countries. Prabhakar, let's move on to the next. So first question for OYO was, why do we go international? If you look at this geography, the map which is there, roughly 70% of the hotel inventory across the globe is fragmented. And within that, the budget category in itself is roughly a $250 billion market, which is less than 100 rooms in size. So even if we get, let's say, 5-10% of that, that would be a huge market. And that was the reason OYO planned to go international roughly 4 years back. Progress, yeah, next slide. So for OYO, I'll just take 30 seconds. OYO's value proposition, there are like a bunch of value propositions. One is obviously in terms of the pricing, revenue management. One is technology. The other is in terms of operations. One more business vertical we have is the insurance business, where we sort of insure your business which you are doing. And then you have other things like content management. And one of the most strongest aspects is the channel distribution, where we give the hotel owners the ability to sort of list their properties on multiple platforms, and we are the ones who are managing it. So end to end, what we give is we give tech, we give revenue management, we give multiple channel distribution, and we also, along with that, give insurance and customer management. So all of that puts OYO in a very strong position, especially catering to the budget category. Yeah, Prabhakar, we can move on to the next. So this one, just a glimpse of what we did as a team. So I was part of the international central core team. We were just a 2-member team, and then we grew on to roughly 30-member team end of 2 years. We started with 53,000 rooms in 4 countries. We were there in India, China, Nepal, and Malaysia in 2017. And by the end of my stint, by July 2019, we were there in 20 countries, and we had 500,000 rooms or 5 lakh rooms. So we had grown 10x in just a matter of 2 years with the team and the plan which we did. Yeah. Along with me, my expansion journey can also be seen here. I gained 16 kilos during the entire travel. I was constantly on the road, and I was before 80 kgs, and then I also expanded and became 96. Yeah, we can just play this quick video. Prabhakar, the sound is not there, I think.
Yes, sir. It's working.
I think there's some issue. I think maybe at my end.
I guess I missed.
That's
some
okay. I
part.
think that's okay. That's okay. We can
Yeah,
just skip it for now. We can-
apologies for that.
No problem. So the video was just yeah. So the video was just focusing on the expansion and in whatever in multiple segments and multiple countries, the expansion we did and the offerings we had. Just a small glimpse of that. Now starting on the country launch plan. So 4 years back when we had planned to go into 50 plus countries, but we actually just managed to enter just 20. And this was the entire plan you could see, which we had just made it on an Excel sheet. There are multiple countries at the bottom. You can see Pakistan also there. You can see Bangladesh, Morocco, Chile, Colombia. All of these we ultimately didn't go, but the plan was there. And because of some issue or maybe economics, we didn't sort of enter these countries. Yeah. At a very high level for us, the broad challenges which we faced were mostly five. One was a technology challenge in terms of the local language support, market specific, what all changes do we need in our technology system. There are multiple integration issues. So that was on the technology aspect. Second biggest issue which we used to face was hiring high quality local talent. And then along with that, the cultural difference also comes into picture. So that was also one big issue for us. Third was building the direct demand channels. So in India, everyone knows OYO, and literally 70 to 80% of our demand comes from the OYO app. Whereas outside, nobody knows OYO. So how do we build that direct demand and so that the entire demand comes through our OYO channels? That was one difficult task for us. Fourth was our competition and the copycat. So there are multiple in Southeast Asia. There are already copycats, or I won't say copycats, or competition similar to OYO. And similarly, outside there is existing competition in US, UK, which we had to counter in order to build our supply. And the last was the deal types. By our deal types, I mean the contractual terms and the take rates which we take. Those have to be sort of changed as per the market. Each market is very unique, and that sort of we had to think through and work with the local legal team to overcome. So broadly, these are the five challenges which we are focusing on. So I'll divide the entire country. So this is the sort of the important part where we divided the entire country launch program into two phases. I would say one is the pre-launch and one is the post-launch phases. So typically for any country, it would be a 4-month process before we actually enter the country. You can see on the right where that graph is there. Before the 4th month, what we do is we look at the legal part. For us, the legal part and the entity setup, which is setting up. Let's say if you're going to Philippines, we need to set up OYO Philippines RZ Limited. So that part is extremely important, and there are a lot of places where we were not able to do that, specifically Vietnam to start with, and so that takes a lot of time. Second part is the pre-launch country planning. Here, what we do is we do the market size estimation, the demand evaluation, how the competition landscape, and look at the hiring and payroll agencies. So this is done with a consulting company. We had hired multiple consulting companies for this, and this was done at a very high level just to understand whether it's feasible to go into that country or not. So this first part happens typically it takes 2 months and happens starts 4 months before we actually start and decide to go into the country. After that, if let's say all of this is okay, we create a launch blueprint. Here, what we do is we create a pre-launch 100-day plan on what do we do when we go into that country, and it's like a 400-pager book which we create for every country on what would be the specifics around launching, what would be the targets for the first 100 days, how do we expand, etc., etc. And I'll deep dive a bit into this in the next upcoming slides. After that, what we do is we do the country leadership hiring and training. Our focus is to hire the country leads and certain BD members and operation members, probably 2 or 1 month before we launch, so that we have at least 10 people in the country when we are on the ground and we want to launch. And post that, can you go back? Yeah. No, go back, Prabha. Yeah. Post that, the last part is a deployment of a launch team. Here, what we do is we typically have a 7 or 8 member launch team, which has 2 salespeople, 1 ops guy, revenue manager, recruiter, and they are responsible for onboarding and recruiting the local talent. And this actually used to go from India, and we were trying, and we changed it for multiple different countries, but it works with the local team, and our Indian team imparts the knowledge which we have, and then we do the launch. So you can see on this graph itself, after we've done the initial estimation, we've done the planning, and we've done the basic hiring. After M0, we have our launch team, which is typically an Indian team, and along with the Indian team, the local ground team works. And the launch team, after the first 5 or 10 properties in a city, used to leave and then move on to a different territory. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So right now, I'll just focus more on the pre-launch steps and a deep dive a bit into that. So pre-launch steps has 5 major components. The first part is the market research part, where typically we do 6 things. One is look at the hotels and look at what is their star rating and what are the size of the hotels, what's the general occupancy, understand the tech landscape, what are the current hotel owners using, and what's the distribution landscape. The second part is on the compliance and legal, and this I think is the most important for us. Identifying the accounting and tax regulations, the third-party payroll, entity setup, and all of those. Third is the hiring aspect on ensuring how do we sort of hire local people, and they should be hired with the preset that they can blend in with our culture and act with the same DNA as we were doing. Fourth part is the tech setup on understanding what all is needed so that our tech current systems can be adapted to the local environment. And the last part is the operational setup, which is more on how do we call center setups, setting up the integration with the different OTAs and different pricing inputs. All of those setups can be done. So just summarize, these are the 5 major components. Prabhakar, we can move on. This is the pre-launch team setup. One is an Indian launch team. We typically used to take make 5 teams for this for each country, and a local team is which is hired 1 or 2 months before we launch. The pre-launch India team has 4 or 5 members. There's 1 sales guy, 1 ops guy, 1 civil engineer, and 1 recruiter. Whereas for the local team, we ensure that the country head is always there beforehand so that he can get his own team, and then 5 to 6 salespeople, 1 to 2 operations guys, and 1 to 2 civil engineers, and there's 1 analyst who could sort of help set up and take care of the entire tech aspect. This is the part where what we do is we create a 100-day country plan on what are we going to do exactly in the first 100 days of each launch. This used to be a Bible, used to be a 300 to 400 page book for each and every country, where we had everything from what the BD will say, what in each meeting the BD guy will do, what does the tech person have to do, what is the transformation standards, and what are our org values. So broadly, if you can see on the screen, we have these BD essentials, which is what does the BD guy do and how does he tackle different hotel owners. Each country is different. Each country has a different sort of way of working. So this is where we actually used to tell what is the value proposition in that country and how do the BD folks pitch to that particular owner. Second used to be the transformation essentials. This is because what we used to do is when OYO gets into partnership with the property, we transform the property and we put in money to improve the overall facade and reception and the rooms. So for each country, the standards are different. So this is the place where we put down all the standards for both the transformation and hospitality. Tech essentials is what all sort of needs to be changed for the country. And the last part is on the occupancy cohort, and on the OTA side, what all changes we need to do. Vaga, we can go to the next slide. Yeah. The other aspect of this 100-day plan is on the people. What exactly on the people side in terms of the culture aspect we need to do. Second is on the training part, which is understanding the vendor basis for our operational movement. And the third is the local governance. Typically, we need a lot of strong relationship with different local OTAs. For example, in Indonesia, the biggest OTA player is Traveloka and Agoda. So we need to have a very strong relationship with them in order to penetrate and get demand. So that is also one aspect we cover in the entire playbook. This just slide tells you that when we were hiring, org culture was extremely important, because when we had initially launched in some of the countries, what we saw was that people used to get onboarded, but the attrition was extremely high because the culture or our aspirations did not match with the folks who had been hired. So then our focus changed, and then we made it a mandate that whenever we are hiring and after the person gets onboarded, the person needs to be sort of given an input on what our culture is, so that he can work accordingly and there is no mismatch in the expectations. So for me, one of the favorite things which I always focused was the first one, where mission is greater than team is greater than me. And I think the entire OYO team in the last 3 years when the expansion was happening, definitely all of us worked in the same way, and that's the reason we've been able to scale. And the second part, which I really liked out of this slide, is execute fast and good. OYO just believed in executing fast, and if you fail, reiterate, change, and go back again. So for me, out of this slide, these were the two sort of tenets or org culture which I still try to take in my product roles also, and it really helps in some of the problem statements which we've been trying to solve. This is just an example on the BD part is extremely important, where we tell the BD, if let's say the hotel type and the star rating is this and the occupancy of the hotel is between this, what exactly do you have to pitch? For example, if let's say the star rating is 1 and the occupancy is less than 65%, then there's an aggressive pitching where the pitching is focusing on distribution channels, and that we will help you in branding and helping improving your reviews and ratings. Similarly, if you go to, let's say, the occupancy greater than 75 and it's a 2-star rating, there we will not focus on improving the distribution channels because the occupancy is already high. There the pitch will be on how we can focus on your pricing and improve profits there, and how we can help you in infrastructure improvement and staff training. So this is just a very high level, and even there's one level below this, is that we tell exactly in each meeting what will be the outcome and where will you spend 1 hour, and we divide that hour into sort of different slots. So that was the level of deep dive this 100-day plan had, and which helped us in sort of doing the entire country launch. Yeah, so we'll move on to the post-launch steps, and this photo is just the first hotel in Shanghai. This is near the Shanghai metro station, which we had signed up almost 4 years back. And so I'll just focus more on the first post-launch steps now. So in the post-launch steps, this is basically when we are doing the launching, and after the post-launch steps, it is divided into 4 steps. And it's typically a 2-month effort, I would say. The first part is the market sizing and city prioritization. Prabhakar, we can move on to the next slide after this. Yeah. So the first slide is, the first step is highly accurate market sizing and city prioritization. Now, this is where we focus on going very deep into the market sizing. We have already done this market sizing when we do a pre-assessment with our consulting companies. But that's at a very high level where we just try to understand whether that market would be good enough for us or not, and whether it's feasible for us to put time into that country or not. Once we get a green flag from there, this is where we engage a local partner, a local consulting company, and we also do market sizing at our level, and we deep dive into what will be the total market size at a country level and also for different cities. There are various sources we take. We'll partner with local authorities. We actually buy data from something called STR, which is like this world standard for data for hotels. And then we try to prioritize cities, the 3 to 5 cities in the country where we would want to start our operations. And typically our focus used to be, our focus used to be obviously the total addressable market should be big. There should be business traveler focus. Occupancy should be low so that we can uplift it. And the penetration of internet or OTA should be very high. This is an example of a city prioritization which we did for Brazil. You can see that what we've done is we've divided all the major cities into 4 different buckets. Like at the top, you can see the jewel business centers, whether it's a tourism or a business profile or it's highly touristic cities. And then what we do is we finally figure out, okay, that Sao Paulo, Rio, Campinas, and Belo Horizonte are the cities where we should actually deep dive in, and the rest of the cities don't have too much of focus. Give me 1 minute, Prabhakar.
Sure, sir.
This is an example of the level of deep dive we do. Here we've divided all the top 25 cities in Brazil, looked at the total addressable market across different cuts using occupancy, ADR. ADR is basically your average room rate and what's the state GDP and etc. etc. And we take multiple sources of data. We take the local industry data. We partner with local agencies there. And then we also get external data, which validate. And then finally, we make this. But this is a very high level depth where we try to go in, because ultimately, basis this, the ground or the launch teams will go into these cities. Probably we can move on to the next after this. Yeah. The next step is we've identified, okay, which cities we need to target. Now, within cities, let's say we've targeted 5 cities. We prioritize which neighborhoods to go. We exactly, for example, when I was in Mexico, we divided the Mexico City into 25 different clusters. And within the 25 different clusters, which are the top 5 clusters we need to target first? That is something we do in this step. It's a typically 1 to 2 week process where we go further deep dive. We speak to the hotel owners on the ground and also via calls and try to understand from them what are the problems, what are the pain points they are facing. And second part is we do sort of consumer research, and we survey consumers to understand their trends and pain points. This is an example of an exact neighborhood deep dive we've done for Sao Paulo. What we did, we now understood, okay, Sao Paulo is a good place to go. We divided Sao Paulo into, this is a center area. We divided that into 4 different parts. We have the Taite bus station, Cogonaz Airport, Jardins, and the center. And within that center, we sort of figure out and make a profile. For example, the Taite bus station, we visited 12 hotels. We understood, okay, the people who come here are focused on short stays, usually coming for business, has economy and lower end hotels. And they also have hotels which are by the way called the love hotels and are paid by the hour. So, and this is like a perfect area for us where these are lower end hotels are not doing that great, and we can uplift the hotels, get them more occupancy, refurbish the property. So this is the way, just an example of how we used to do a neighborhood deep dive for each city. This is an example of a consumer survey we had done for, again, for Brazil, where we wanted to understand what are the major pain points within different categories of the the budget segment. For example, if it's a USD $5 to $25 person who's paying roughly around $25, what he wants is more of a convenient location. Whereas as the price point increases, then the focus changes more on the comfort and the cleanliness part. But again, for all of these categories, location was the dominant preference for all the guests, which we had done for Brazil. The third part and the second last part on the launch is when we actually go onto the ground, we do three things. One is our focus is to visit the grounds and speak to the hotel owners and target at least 100 hotel owners within the city in just 2 weeks. Second is to get the initial launch team, which is the local launch team, hired, typically 5 to 10 member team. We speak to local agencies and get them onboarded. And we also, through our contacts, through the local MB alumni groups or LinkedIn, try to do a hiring plan within those 2 weeks. And the third part which we do is we change our contracts and our marketing material to the local languages. Sometimes the contracts are not ready because the entity is not there. So in those cases, what we do is we have something called a LOI, which is a letter of intent. Let's say if I go to a hotel owner and the hotel owner says that I'm interested, and since our entity is not there, contract cannot be signed. So we'll just ask him to sign a letter of intent saying that he's has the intention to sign up or go on board with OYO. So these are the three things which we do. Yeah, this is an example of my exact schedule in Brazil. We initially make a 1 week schedule where we have, let's say, if you can see the Monday schedule, we have the interview with candidates on São Paulo. Then Tuesday we are visiting hotels, and then in between transportation, lunch. To the minute, what we do is we do this sort of bifurcation. So in Brazil, Brazil and Mexico, we were working with McKinsey for our initial ground prep, and they sort of helped us in the entire launch prep. So you can see there's a minute-to-minute sort of bifurcation which is done, and you actually don't have any time to do anything else apart from hiring the folks and understanding from the hotel owners what exactly do they need so that OYO can come into the country. The last step is we do all the hotel visits, and on the ground we typically spend 2 to 3 weeks. Our focus is to onboard at least 5 hotels before we leave that city and get the entire launch team, which is typically a 10-member team, hired, and the offers have been rolled out. And the last is having the LOIs and the learnings, whatever we have done through these hotel owners, pass that on to different teams, for example, technology and your other support teams, so that they can start working on those plans once we actually start the operations in that country. This is again like a day schedule which I had in Rio, which just showed us, this is like just a 1 day schedule, whereas the initial I showed you that was like a full week schedule, where what we do is we do all the hotel visits and we keep some as backup because some of the owners are not present, but we try to cover at least 7 to hotels in one single day so that it maximizes our output. And from the visits, what we do is after the visit, we create a hotel profile for each hotel, understanding what are the learnings from that hotel. For example, this is a South American hotel where we tell, okay, this is in this cluster, this is the neighborhood which is very famous, what's the hotel type, what are the amenities, what are the major complaints, and who's the main contact. And we try to create at least 20 to 25 different profiles across different ratings, so that once the launch team and the local team comes on board, they have something handy and they can take the learnings from there and do a better job. And what we also do is we sort of create this learning slides where we put our learnings from this entire 4 to 5 weeks of initial planning and on the ground, what exactly is needed. And this we pass on to all our different stakeholders. Typically, for us, major stakeholders are the tech, operations, and the OTA teams, so that they can take their inputs and accordingly start working with different teams. This is the, so after this is done, the second part is when we have the major 3 to 5 cities and we reach a certain threshold, and the threshold used to be vary from different countries. For OYO, the threshold used to be the number of hotel rooms or hotels. Example, in Mexico, the threshold was 200 rooms. Once we reach a threshold of 200 rooms, the launch team will then move on to a different city. So the way we expand beyond the major cities is through these 5 steps. What we do is we hire 5 launch teams. These launch teams are deployed in the 4 smaller cities, and once the country room count reaches 500, they move on to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Their job is to, again, these launcher teams' job is to sign the first 3 to 4 hotels or 200 rooms, hire the local team, and then move on to a different city. So that's the job of the launch team. Example, in China, we had more than 100 launch teams, and these launch teams were able to expand to more than 50 cities in less than 1 year in China itself. And that's the way we were actually able to go between tier 3 and even tier 4 cities in China. Yeah, I think we are just almost, I'll just take 3-4 minutes. Wanted to share my experience in US. I spent almost a year there. You can see this. I did whatever it takes to onboard hotels. I was the first person there, landed just from Mexico, and came to Texas, Dallas. And it was becoming very difficult to onboard hotels in the first 1 month. And our target was 5 hotels. I became a cowboy. I went with the hotel owners to some random places. You can see on the right screen, I'm sitting with those 5 folks on that bull. Didn't know how to play golf. A lot of owners used to play golf. Did put up a show there on the golf. And there's a volleyball tournament happening. So the interesting story here is that when I landed in Dallas, we were not able to actually speak to the owners. And unlike other countries, you can not simply walk up to a hotel and just ask the owner, let's say, sir, I want to speak to you. They will not speak to you without an appointment. Through some local contact, we got to know that there's a tournament happening in Dallas, where all the hotel owners are playing. Me and my team, we were 5-member team there, all local folks. We took a bunch of crate of beers, and we just, after the game ended, we knew one local guy there, and we asked him, okay, if we can pitch OYO there. So the game ended, we handed over all the beers to the hotel owners there, and we pitched the OYO value prop to the hotel owners. And that was the start. All the hotel owners in Dallas knew us. And after that, after a month, we were able to sign up 5 hotels, and then that domino effect was there. And you can see at the bottom, those are the 2 hotels which we signed, which are still with us in Dallas itself. So we did whatever it takes, and I think that comes from the OYO DNA, which was there in all the team members we were there. This is the photo of all the 20 hotels. My team, 5-member team, we onboarded across 4 states in the southern part of US. This was Texas, North Carolina, South, and Arkansas. And you can see some of them are really good hotels, having more than like 200 rooms. And some of them are there, some of them not there. But I was really proud of my team achieving this in the first 2 months of expansion. I think this is the last slide. For me, the biggest problem or the biggest issue while expanding, I won't say was tech. For me, biggest was the cultural difference. We needed a high level of ownership and commitment. And that is the reason we were able to achieve this mammoth goal of coming into these 20 plus countries. This is just a snip from one of the Dilbert cartoons where the customer is coming from Elbonia and he's just kissing his hand. So that just tells the cultural difference. For an example, our team in Spain did not work post 5, and usually on Fridays they were not available. US folks did not like the follow-up culture. We as Indians have had this habit of doing regularly follow-up calls with the BD people every single day, and it was very difficult for them to adapt, and we got a lot of feedback from them. China team, on the other hand, had a altogether different approach. They worked day and night. There was one city where they were not able to do some work because of construction going on, and they actually put in the entire from morning 2 to 6 a.m. They did the entire operations work. So they worked more than what was required, 10 to 12 hours. So that sort of cultural difference was there. And for me, that was the biggest barrier while expanding. Thank you very much. Those were all from my side. Happy to take any questions. This was on a very high level, but if there are any questions, feel free to shoot.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for taking us through this exciting journey of yours. Many of us will be willing to or roaring to go into after, like, we will be joining our companies from July. So they have got a taste of what they are getting into. So guys, yeah, if anyone has any question, so they can raise their hands and ask. Yeah, Jagan, please go ahead.
Hello, Mayank.
Hey, Jagan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Mayank, recently I read an article about Ritesh Agarwal in Hindu, saying that the OYO, which was expanding, which was having their strategies expanding, was more into vertical integration right now. Their townhouses are more focused to food and banquets. So how this approach is changing your plans nowadays?
Got it. So, Jagan, that time when I was part of the expansion team, our focus was more on expanding into countries and increasing the number of rooms and the hotels. Right now, our focus is more on. So we've done the expansion. Now we are just consolidating all the expansion, and we are reducing wherever we are seeing that the unit economics are not working. Right now, the focus of the company is more on tech and ensuring how we help the companies become more productive using tech. For example, initially we used to do all properties have this operational standard where we have a checklist that, okay, you need to have, let's say, geyser in the washroom, it needs to be clean, XYZ. We used to have one operation manager taking care of 10 hotels, and he used to be on the ground. Now, because of COVID, all the business hit, there was a lot of massive layoff. That one person is not there now. Now, what we have done is we've put in tech there, ensuring that instead of that person, how can tech enable this operational check? So we are trying to move in that area, and our focus is on ensuring that we become sort of a tech hospitality business rather than an operational business, which was before.
Thanks, Mike. And one more thing is, like, as a user, okay, whenever I go to certain hotels using OYO, I can see that the hotel owners, at some places, okay, not everywhere, maybe 1 out of 20 hotels, they might, even after booking at OYO, they might be suggesting, can you please cancel and can you book directly? So how do you, try to avoid this problem, eliminate this problem?
So, Jagan, here also we've put in a tech enabled aspect. This happens. This is called, in our terms, is called a check-in denied situation. So if you look at the two categories, one is an expensive category. You have Marriott, Wyndham, and all of that. There, all of this doesn't happen because
Yes.
the person's expectation is also different, and he's paying a much more higher price point. Whereas in the budget category, this problem is still there. How we are trying to solve through tech is that, well, let's say you've made a booking through the app. You go to the hotel. We have your Google location because we send you the initial booking messaging on WhatsApp and other places. Once you reach there, and let's say the hotel owner or the person sitting at the front desk says, you cancel this directly, I'll give you some discount, you book. But we know that you've reached that place through your Google location. Hence, we sort of have a mechanism in place where we are able to track, okay, the person reached that place, but he's cancelled. So we mark it as a sort of we have a system, we call it, I won't name the system, but through that we mark it as that this was a fraud which was done here. Similar to what Uber and other like Urban Clap and other folks are also doing. We are also following that same method. Using the Google location, there's one more technology we're using.
Yes, man. Thank you. Thank you. That helps.
Thank you, Jagan.
Guys, anyone else? Any question? Yeah, Raj, please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayank. Very nice presentations and great journey, I can see. I wanted to understand that, tell me if you can give me an example where you went into a country and the cultural difference was so huge that it was difficult to get them adopted to the OYO culture that you had. But the market being so lucrative that you didn't want to, abandon that country. And how were you able to solve that problem?
Good question, Raj. Just give me 10 seconds thinking.
Sure.
So, Raj, for me, I think, so Southeast Asia, I would say, was very similar to us in terms of working culture. So there, it was not much of a problem. The problem which I faced was in US. And the difference in terms of when we hired the local team, there was a lot of difference in culture with Indians and with US folks. For example, just a very simple example, in the US office, people used to come at 7:38, whereas we never used to start even before 10 or maybe 10:30, and then we'll take so many chai breaks, etc., sutta breaks in between. So that difference was there, and they used to leave very early, 4, 5, 4:30. So for me, I think the biggest issue, I won't say an issue, but the difference was in US, where we had to adapt. Even this is not about times and timings also. Even when you work, we could feel that if you keep asking them a lot of follow-up questions, they wanted a lot of independence and they used to feel hostile. The way, I mean, we tried to overcome was through multiple changes we did. One was we obviously embraced the positive differences. You have to understand there are certain positive things they do. Starting early is not a bad thing, or giving independence is not a bad thing, but has to have some guardrails. So we embraced, first thing which we did was we understood the positive differences and we embraced that. And as a company, we adapted those. Second thing was we sort of sought some sort of commonality between the cultures. There are a lot of common things between cultures which you can find out once you spend some time there. And that was one way where we were able to bridge that gap. And third thing which we did was we started having a lot of interactions, voluntary interactions with other geographies. Initially, we used to work isolated between different geographies. We made sure that our folks, when they go there, they take out time to interact with the local teams and sort of gel or blend in with those folks. That is extremely important, especially in South America, where like Mexico, Colombia, it's very important so that you gel in and the people feel that they are one of those. So those were, I think, the ways which I tried to do in the US, and it really helped. But once you go there, once you be on ground, you have to be very open. You can't be very rigid the way you were working, and that way you will adapt. If you're very rigid, then the folks there itself will not let you work.
Thank you, man. That was a great solution.
Yeah, Nirdesh, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Mayank. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is related to particularly the pandemic, which we have noticed in the past couple of years, and which has particularly ravaged the hospitality industry. Just wanted to understand what were the key changes that OYO brought into picture, in order to cope up with this pandemic, because the waves have been very sporadic, and the demand has been so sporadic. So what has been a change in your growth strategy, and how did you sustain during this period of uncertainty?
Cool. Thank you, Nirdesh. I think for OYO, it was I think not for OYO, at least the entire hospitality we were hit, but the entire company has used this, I would say, period to rebuild its focus on tech, and tech on two things. One is customer focus, and the second is focus on our hotel owners. During the entire journey of OYO in the last 8 years, I would say, we've done a lot of good things. We've done a lot of bad things also. But our focus on consumer, for example, the first question was on if I go there and if the owner says you pay directly to me and then pay some money less and you check in. So that is a problem where we need to solve that through tech. So our focus for the next couple of years is just ensuring that the consumer gets the best experience. There have been a lot of cases where people go to the hotel, they don't find the hotel. Those cases are also there. So a lot of bad things keep coming in the press. So our focus right now is ensuring that the customer is able to get what he's actually booking for in terms of quality and experience. That is number one. And second is, how do we ensure our hotel owners are able to get to the revenue which they were pre-pandemic? Those are the only biggest goals we have as a company. And all we are doing is ensuring that we are ramping up our entire tech team and our product, and ensuring that our product is able to match both these demands. So that's the goal for the next couple of years for us. Does this answer the question, or you want some? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I get, investing in technology is pretty much the right thing to do during the pandemic. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nidesh.
Guys, any further questions? Yeah, Jugal, please go ahead.
Sir, there are many hotels chained under OYO, right? So how are you able to maintain the standards?
So Jugal, we have a different set of standards for. So in India, we have the premium is the townhouse and also the 4x OYOs, 5x OYOs. We are into the 3, 4, 5-star categories also coming up in India now. So that is the top segment. And then we have capital O's, and then we have the smart or the normal hotels. For each of these, there is a bit of change in the standards. For example, in a townhouse, the bed sheet has to be of a specific color, and the flooring has to be wooden. So there are certain different standards. What we are doing is we do something called a video inspection now, because the availability of folks on ground is very less. So what we do is there is an automated way where the owner just has to take pics and make a video of the room and the property on a regular basis. And there is sort of an AI algorithm which we built in our system, which takes a look at the photos and gives a score to it. If it's a bad lower score, a guy will come and then he will evaluate the pictures, because sometimes the pictures AI doesn't work to an optimum level, but AI does one level of check and it flags out the bad ones. Then a person comes in and he checks whether that photos and pictures are coming to the operational standards or not. So this is on the tech side. On the operational side, what we have done for this improving the operational standards is that we have for each property there's an account manager which is on ground, and he visits the properties at a regular cadence. That cadence changes as per his schedule, and where he has a checklist where he has to check whether all of these things are there in the property or not. Example, washroom, there needs to be no washroom should have an open wire, because that's an hazard if there's a geyser or because there's a lot of water. So that sort of checklist, that ground account manager is responsible for checking. So both on this is the tech and the operational part which we are doing.
That answers my question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jugal.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I would ask Jagan Sukumaran to give the vote of thanks to Mayank sir.
Thanks, Prabhakar. Thank you, sir. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed this extraordinary and enriching session that we arranged for you today. It is my honor and privilege to give this vote of thanks to our honorable speaker, Mr. Mayank Singh. Sir, I thoroughly enjoyed the vast experience and learnings on launch approaches with respect to pre and post, type of people to be hired at different stages, the 100-day plan, the BD approaches with respect to occupancy, market sizing, city prioritization. So whatever you have shared to us today, and the patience that you had for explaining the questions that we asked you. I'm sure that each of us would agree that this session have been absolutely enriching. I firmly believe that the insights you gave us today we will not have got from anywhere. It had to come from an industry stalwart like you. Thank you once again, sir. It has been absolute honor to host you this evening, sir.
Thank you, Jagan. Thank you, Prabhakar, Sarvesh, and the entire XLRI team for giving me this opportunity for speaking. This was very quick, so I'm not sure how much people were able to absorb. If anyone sort of comes into this role and needs any help or any other role, maybe product, because I've been doing product for 5-6 years now, please feel free to drop me a text on LinkedIn, and would be happy to chat further.
Thanks a lot, sir. Have a great evening, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.